Hey guys, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. This is a project that we started, e-commerce with a backend of Web API and a front end using Blazor standalone with .NET 9. So we have started or made 2 videos on the client. We are done with an API, so we are building the client, and this is the 3rd video of building the client. So in this video, we're going to look at how we can connect our administration sessions and also how we can work with cards and all sorts. So let's see. Now in our API creation, we forgot to register our services. I don't know whether you did it or you did not. Well, if you do not have any idea of this, it means that you haven't watched the previous video. I think they are very important for you to hop into this level and get the better understanding. So I think you have to check that if you haven't done so before you jump right into this. Now let's quickly go to our infrastructure. And in there, that is where we created our cart interface with implementation. And that is where we're going to save our archive. That is when a payment is made to the Stripe account, and when it returns, you want to call this from the client, from the UI, to save the record or the product or the cart details which was paid for. So you want to do that, and we created an interface and implementation, but we did not register that. So let's quickly go in there and undo that. So make sure you open your solution, and in there we're going to our infrastructure project, and in our service container, that is how we're going to do that. So now that we are done with this, we also created a payment interface and implementation, which is going to give us access to all the payment system or application support. And in that, we did not also register that. So we need to do this with a cart service in the application layer. So let's go to application with our service container and undo these registrations. After we are done with this, the next thing that we're going to do here is within our archive model, user ID is a string, but in that, when creating that DT and the model itself, we made it as grid, which shouldn't be so. So let's go and modify that. We first have to tackle the model itself from the domain, then we tackle the DTO from the application layer. So let's do it. So now that we are done updating this, we need to update add migration, because you know that once you are done with this, the change is going to affect our database. So we need to perform migration. Let's go and build this project and add migration. So now that it is succeeded, as you can see from here, we click on Package Manager Console and add migration to this. Make sure you have your default project set as infrastructure. Great. Okay, so we are having an issue here. Cannot insert duplicate key row in object of this ASP.NET row. We have this table already existing, so that's the reason why we are having all this issue, right? And that's what we need to do. We can start this afresh. So all this let's delete the migration folder. So that's our migration. We want to get rid of this. Once this is done, we need to also delete our database so we can perform new migration and now get this into effect. And that is my eCommerce AppDB. That's the database here. So close existing connections and I click on OK to get it deleted. Now let's go and do the same. So we're going to say that let's clear and add migration. There's going to be the first one. And now let's go in and update it. So that is also done. Now we can go back to our SQL Server Object Explorer. Now we are not having any app eCommerce DB. Now let's go and refresh our database and see we have it over here. So we have everything with the new tables created. Great. The next thing that we're gonna do here is when you check our Stripe payment service that we created, which is found in infrastructure, it needs to provide, or we need to provide it with some parameters, which are the cancel and also success URLs. Now with this, when in case operation is successful, then it's going to direct it to the success URL. In case it failed or it's being cancelled, then it does same. Now in that, we're going to create a component in our client. That is where we're going to redirect this into our client. So in case user cancels the request to make payment, we can display something like payment cancelled. Or if in case it is successful, then we do same. So in that, we need to update these parameters in there. Now go to your infrastructure and now check your Stripe service that we created under services, Stripe payment service, and let's update this. So instead of using 7025, which is the API's address port, we're going to be using 71, which is for our, I think our client. So our client is running on 7172, I think so. Yeah, so I think it's 7170, 7170, 7170. Now, this should be dynamic. So go to your client section, go to your properties folder, and then click on line settings, and now grab the address that you see, and now paste it down here. So this should be like this. Now we're going to create a component in our client, and I'll name it as payment success and also payment cancelled. And then we're going to display respective information if it's successful or not. And here it is redirecting to our Blazor application. That's our client application. Okay. Now, aside from this, we need to also update our payment method types. In our previous video, we made it as USD, but that shouldn't be so. There's the type. So here we're going to look for card since you want to make a card payment. So we need to pass in a card instead of the USD. So these are the modifications that we need to do in our client for it to work. You know, with our card service, you are not implementing or we are not wiring the API much. We want to handle that in the client, and we call the API when we are done or you want to make payment. That's amazing. Okay, so let's save this. We can close all these tabs here. Then we can make sure we rebuild this project to make sure everything works before we can open our client and also tackle that. Oh, okay. So you see we have what succeeded. It means that this is set. I can just minimize this or close it in case I want my system to be faster. In that, I'll close it. When we need it, we'll go and open it again. So don't worry. So I've closed that and I'm going to open my front end. So that's a demo e-commerce front end. So open yours. I don't know the name that you gave to the solution, but make sure you have it open because you're going to work on the client. So it is successfully open. Now we have multiple tabs open. We're going to close all. Now the first thing that we need to do here is to install some packages. We're going to be assisted by some packages. Now I did not integrate any third-party packages except my own package, aside from the Crescenti package for Blazor Type Ahead. Okay, maybe you can decide to improve this using Syncfusion packages, using DevExpress or other packages. You can do that. But let's make it in a basic form so that every developer can understand that. Okay, and these are free packages that we are using. So we need to install my data grid package that I have created. It actually is just a table element, and also we have a modal, which is a div, and also we have a toast. So these are the three packages that we're going to install in this. So let's do that. So right click on solution and now go to dependencies and click on manage NuGet packages. Now that we are done installing these packages, that is our toast model, and also for not this one, we've done this already, isn't it? That's a data grid. You know, these packages are supported with some JavaScript files, so we need to go to our index.html file and now make references in there. Let's do that. So these are the packages that we need for our script for our data grid, and also we need for our model. So after we are done with this, now it is the time for us to create our cat DTO. So these are the models that we're going to be using in our client. As earlier on, maybe you can decide to add a simple project and then add those commonly used models or DTOs in that, and now share it with an API and also the client. But well, we want to create a separate project, so we don't want to be doing that. But well, you can also do it. Since we are not doing that, it means we need to code this again. Yes, we need to write it again. So let's go and do that. And we're going to do that in our client library that we added to support this Blazor application. In that, you created a folder known as models. These models actually contain our DTOs. That's what we're going to be using to transfer data from our client to the API. So in that, let's create a folder and name it as cat, and I'll start creating our DTOs. So when you check here, you can see that here we are having product ID and we are having quantity. The same thing applies to this. We are having product ID. We are also having the same quantity. So instead of repeating the same thing, we can get rid of this. After getting rid of that, let's inherit from this. That is inheritance. So we are inheriting the members from here, and then we are adding extra ones there. That is good programming practice. So let's keep that. Okay, so maybe you might be asking, why are we creating these DTOs? Well, the reason why we are creating these DTOs is because if I need to check, for instance, the process card. Now you can change the name. Don't worry about the name if it sounds weird to you. Now this is what we're going to be using to save products added to cart to the cookie storage, or in case you want to use local storage too. That's a browser storage. You can do that. And aside from that, we need a product ID and a quantity the user wants to buy. Then checkout is what you're going to be using to send the list of products selected to the cart and also the payment method user selected. For now, when building the API, we integrated only one payment method, that is using credit card. Using card. In case you have a PayPal, in case you have maybe payment on delivery, you see that things, so you can add them so that when the user selects each of them based on the ID, you can check it and now swap the implementations and do some magic with it. Then here we're going to save this. When after payment is made, we need to send this cart history, and now in that cart history, we're going to save it here with the archive. This is going to contain all cards which have been paid for, not unpaid one, paid for, successfully paid. So that's the reason why we are creating these three models here. So let's put them in each file. So now that we are done with this, the next thing that we're going to do here is, in the previous video, we created an interface as a helper which returns an HTTP client. Now in that, we are returning a public client and also a private client. Now with the private client, we need to get a token from the cookie, append it to the header, that's an authorization header, before we return an instance of a client. But in that, how we did it, we need to modify it so it can work well. So let's do that. Now in our client library, in our helper folder, you can see that we are not tackling the interface, rather the implementation. So check for HTTP client helper, And in here, instead of creating a new client here, we don't want to do that. We have created one already here with this. So let's grab this one and now assign it with a header. Let's remove this one, the new one created, and now let's return this client. Good. So we create a client. If the token is null, return this client. This client is going to be empty because it's now created. In case it is there, token is there, then the same client created, make sure you add that authorization header and I return. So this is a very simple one, isn't it? Let's save this. After doing this, the next thing we're going to do here is we created our constant class which handles all our constant methods and also variables. So let's go and update it. Since we want to integrate or we want to add cat, let's go and add that session as well. So it is found in the same folder as helper folder because we have constant and we created a product category, authentication, API call type, cookie, and also API client. Now let's modify this and add few. So if you're asking yourself, why are we creating this method or these static classes, then let me explain it to you. Now with payment, we have created our payment controller already in our API development, which returns our payment method. And in there, the controller name is payment, and now the route here, it is what? The method. So we combine them and have a controller / our route, which get access to the specific endpoint, which is get. And they want to get all payments. So this is going to be used to display all payment to the user. Now, when it comes to the carts, you can see we have a checkout, and which is a cart controller, endpoint, which has a route of what checkout. Then from save cart is the same cart controller with an endpoint route of what save checkout. Now, with a cart name, this name as my cart, that is what we're going to be using as a key to save the cart selected or added or created by the user in the cookie storage. So since we have installed a cookie storage package, we want to use that to handle all the tokens or the cart service. So we give it a name here. You can change the name, you can change the checkout, you can change the save cart, you can change the controller name and the endpoint or the route. You can modify this. Okay, but in this tutorial or in this project, that is how we're doing it. Okay, once you're done with this, we need to create our cart service, which comprises of the interface and the implementation. Now, the reason why in the client you're also creating the cart service is maybe in the near future, if you want to create tests, unit test, then we can mock it and now work with this. I've already made a video on how to test Blazor application. So if you haven't checked it out, maybe I'll put the link in the video description if you want to look at how you can do this test, unit test in your Blazor application. So let's go and do that. And we are doing the same thing, or we are doing it at the same place. When you check our services folder, we have an interface and implementation. Let's go and add this cart service and its implementation in there. So we need two interfaces to handle our service. We need our save checkout history. That is after this checkout is successfully implemented or executed. That's what we call this. I think in the order of execution, this should be the first one. So we check out after it makes access, we want to save the checkout here to the history, and we do that. Let's go implement this. So when you look at our checkout service, it is what we are doing for the implementation. Before a client can check out, the client must be authenticated. Although when a client is adding product to cart, either the client is authenticated or not, we don't care about that. But as soon as the client wants to make checkout, want to pay, that is where he needs to be authenticated. So in that, we create a private which takes in the token or the JWT token of the client and attach to the header. Then we're going to make a post request. Now in that, we have a route, which is an API. That's a controller name with a route, a specific endpoint. We have our client as private client. Then we do not have an ID because this is a post request. Then there's our model. In our model, we need to typecast it. And what is the type here? It is checkout. So we do that, and you pass in this object that we have created. We want to check in case the process could not be performed at all. We want to return connection error. But in case it does and it returns a response from the API, which could be bad request, it could be okay, it could be anything, we want to convert that into a service response and now return it to the user. Now let's handle the save checkout history as well. So it's a matter of grabbing all this. Let's grab this and let's paste it. That is where copy and paste is nice. Let's make it an async. And in here, this is what we're going to be doing. With this, instead of cart or checkout, it is what? Save cart, the same post, the same client, ID is null. And now this is an archive, no more cart. This is the model. Since it's a T model, it can handle enumerable. Then with the typecast, since it's a list, we need to also cast it as a list. So enumerable, let's cast it, passing the model. The same thing, since it returns service response, we can do same here. That's very simple. Okay, so now we are done implementing this. What is the next thing to do? It's about registering the service. Let's go to the program.cs file and register that service. The next thing that we need to do after registering the service here is to create our payment service, which is going to handle a return. It's a GET request, which is going to talk to the API and retrieve all payments that the API supports. So we can let the client choose one. Let's create an interface and also implementation for that. So it seems we did not create this DTO. When you check here, we are not having that. So that means we need to go and do that. Okay, so let's go and create our implementation for this. So with this, we need to go to, let's get our category service, because it is the same thing that we're going to be doing. So category service, let's locate for GET request. So category service, this is post private, this is update. You want to have get all, so you want to grab this. Let's go to our implementation. Let's paste this, change it to an async, and also we need to get an HTTP client, so it means we need to inject it here. We can get same from our cart service. We get a client, which is here is a payment method, and this payment method is not private. We want to get public clients. After that, we want to create a model, which is get all, but it shouldn't be category, rather it is what? Payment. Then we have get all, type is get, this is our client, model, we don't have any model. Then ID is also null. Now when we come here, we need to cast it. So we create a dummy model. We did that in the previous video. Then which contains this empty class. See, empty class. And we want to call this, and this should return payment. So it should return a list of this. In case it makes access, you want to return a list of all. You want to return null. It's an empty array. Okay, so that's what we have here. We can also move this to a file. The same thing applies to the interface. Okay, and let's remove all this. So once you are done, we need to go and register this service. Let's go to the program and now do same. Good. So you can see that we have a card service created, registered, and also we have a payment service also created and registered as well. The next thing that we're going to be doing here is let's do an injection. Let's inject this card and payment service in our import.razor so it makes it globally accessible and available everywhere in the component. We can do that from our Blazor application, import.razor file, and let's do the injection. Okay, so these are the injections that we need. You can see from here, we are injecting a browser cookie storage service, and this will give access to use the interface from the application that we installed, the package that we installed. Okay, although we have encapsulated this in the iToken service, but well, this is for token purpose, and this is for storage purpose. So here we want to save a cut to the cookie storage, and that you want to use the built-in interface from the package that we installed. And also we created the payment method and the cat service, and that is what we have injected the interfaces, and we've created an object out of it respectively. Great. In there we need to use a system json.test, so we can that's system.test.json, so we can serialize and deserialize JSON object to C# and vice versa. We installed my 3 packages, Toast, Data Grid, and a model. And in that we need to also include the injections here, the using statement, so we don't need to referencing this explicitly in each of the component. The next thing is we need to use our model.cat. This is the models that we created. It's referring to folders, right? Model folder and our cat folder. So we can use all the models that we created in this folder. Good. Now the next thing that we need to do here is we need to register our data grid service in here. So let's go to our program, and in here let's add this data grid service. Now virtualization service is coming from the data grid package. As I mentioned earlier on, it is just a bootstrap class with a table element. Now I have added a function where you can virtualize it. In case you want to load data once you scroll up or down, you can do that. I've made a documentation on this, so if you want to know how to use this, I'll link maybe the video in this if you want to implement it. Okay, but we need to also add this service for this table to work, so we have added it here. Now is the time for us to start creating our component, what we have been waiting for. So let's start creating them. Now in there, I need to close all this. Maybe I'll leave the import because at some point, maybe we'll be adding some using statement in there. So let's close all this. We can open the import again from here because it is available here. Okay, so in our pages, let's right click, and this, we're going to create a razor component, and that's going to handle with the cancel payment component. Now this is going to come from the Stripe service after user cancels the request of making payment, then this page will be called. So let's have that. And now if you check the route, you see that it corresponds with what we specify in our service in an API. So here we have our local host with our port of 7170 slash, you're going to have a payment cancelled. So this is what we're going to be using when a user cancels request from the Stripe. So we are just building a simple interface or simple UI for this when a user cancels request. We are using container, which are bootstrap classes, bootstrap things, and we want to, the main object that we want to focus here is to display payment cancel. So that's the reason why we have all this container, row, column, large, and etc. Okay, so these are bootstrap things to center this in the middle of the page. Yeah. Okay, so that is it for the payment cancel. Now let's grab this and create our next component. That is when maybe our cart component. I think so. Let's handle our cart component, which is very which is broad. So see where I have one. Let's go to our pages, then add our cart component. So let's specify our route for this, which is the page of as my cart. That is what I'm giving to mine. You can change this. Let's go and write a code method which will be needed, and in order to handle this, talking about getting cart from the cookie storage, serializing this cart and also deserializing it to .NET object, and now looping through this object in the UI and adding cart. Let's do that. Let's do it. Okay. So we're going to be using toast component. That's the reason why we are injecting this toast component, because we have installed the package already. So in here, when you look at the variables that we are creating here, we first create a string which is going to hold the value when you are paying, when you are processing it. Now we need a toast, that's a Netcode-Hub toast, so we can display something to the user while there's a process occurs. Then we have a show payment dialog, which is going to toggle between show and hide between payment dialog. In that you're having a payment method, the service that we created, we're going to be handle that in here. And also get product. So here, that is because when you check our process card, it contains the product ID and a quantity. Now to display the product details from the cookie service, we need to get the product details, and you want to separate these selected products from the default one. So these are the default ones, and this is what the user has added to cart. We want to get the details here from this process cart. So we're going to loop through this and now get an object out of this selected product so we can display it in the my cart table. Okay, now let's go and continue on. So here what we're going to do here is when the page initializes, by using this lifecycle method of uninitialize async method, you want to get a payment service, you want to get a product, you want to also get the cart in case we do have, or the user has already added cart to the cookie. We want to also do that and get it and display them to the UI. Let's do it. So in our uninitialized method 2, this is what we are doing. We get a payment service, we get a product service, No, we get. We get the payment from the payment service. We get the product from the product service. Then we want to get the cookie or the token. Is it a token? No. We want to get a cat from the cookie service. You can see, so we're having this browser cookie storage service dot get. We specify our cat name, and in case it is null, then we want to return. But in case it isn't, that is why we want to visualize it into a list of process cat, and I'll store it here. In case we do have any, then continue else return. Create a method here. This private method is going to loop through this cat, because this contains a process cat, which is the ID of the product and the quantity. You want to loop through that and also get the respective product information of each of the objects specified in this my cat. So let's create this private method to handle that. So when you look at this method, there's quite things that we are doing here. We want to check if the selected product has already data in it. Then we want to get them cleared off before we prepare the new one, because we don't want to keep old data and they want to get rid of it, so we can prepare this container to receive a new one. We loop through the cat list, which contains the process cat, which is of the product ID and also the quantity. We loop through for the product in the product list. When we get it, and in case the selected product does not contain or does not contain it, then we want to add it. So we are getting the selected cat, its models or its product model from the product list that we have. And after that, we're going to sort them in ascending order by name, so we can display them. Good. So the next thing that we're going to do here is we want to get a product quantity. We want to get the cat item. We want to also get the product total price, and also we want to handle an input change. Let's see how we're going to work with this. So when you look at this place too, this so we are doing, we want to get a product quantity. The reason that we are doing here is, when we are displaying the selected product. Now this selected product contains the product quantity in stock. We don't want to get that one. We want to get the user selected quantity, and we can get it from our process cat. So that's the reason why we get it from here. And in there, we're going to call a method. Now this method, we want to grab its quantity. Now what is this method? The reason why I created this here is we're going to be using it often. That's the reason why I have separated it. That is this get, it returns a process cat. In that the cat that we have, we're going to get the ID and I return the quantity out of it. So this is going to give you the actual quantity the user wants to buy with. Now let's check from the get product total price. We have the product ID. We want to grab the quantity. We want to grab the product price. And in there, we want to multiply the quantity by the price, because how much the item costs, that is the found in the product. How many does let's say the user want? Then you get it from the quantity. So to get the total price, let's multiply the quantity by the price. You see that? Just simple mathematics. Okay, now here we're going to handle an input change. This is going to happen when a user types in number in an input text box, which actually going to have the type as number. The reason of creating this is, user can defaultly, when you add item to cart, you're going to have a quantity of 1. But in case you want to update, you want to buy 2 pieces, then you go to my cart, and in there we are providing a text box where you can update it. But when you update it, we need to update the system automatically or at real time, so it can reflect the total price and also reflect with the grand total. And then that you want to grab the total, you want to grab that product ID with the value that is has inserted or typed. So in that you pass this method, you want to provide 2 arguments. The first one is a change argument, which is going to contain the number that is going to provide, and also the product ID, which is coming from the looping. In that you want to grab the new quantity. Since it's an object, we need to move it to a string, and in that, since it's going to be an integer, we need to pass it on to integer. So we're going to have the integer number here. After that, you want to go to the list that we have and I'll search for that product ID that we have and update the quantity to the new one. After that, you want to save this to the cookie storage. So we haven't created this method yet. We're going to do that soon. After saving, you want to get a cart again. Then you want to refresh the whole app, the whole page component, so the current changes can get reflected. That's what we are doing. Now let's go and have implementation for this save cart. And when you look at this, you want to save item to, I want to save cart to the cookie. So in there you can see we are using the interface that we injected in our import eraser file, and then we are set async, which by setting up item to the cookie. In there we need the key, and now we need the value. Now with the value, since it's supposed to be string, we need to serialize it into string. We have .NET object and we are serializing it to string, so we can save it in there. The number of days we want to last for is 30 days, and then we specify a default path, which is this home. Okay, we want to get the total. We provide a list of products here, which contains the cost price of the specific item or product. You want to create a grand total, we initialize it, and now we're going to loop through this product list that we have, and in that we're going to get this grand total. We specify this product total price by this product ID. So this is going to get us a product ID and also the quantity, and add it and get a total. So loop through this, what we're going to be calling here, and now we're going to specify this the total that we're going to get. You want to assign it to this grand total. At the end of the day, we want to return this grand total. So when we are calling this method, we need to provide a selected product. Take note, selected product, not all the products, because all the products is not what user has added to the cart. It is only a subsection of it that is a selected product. So anytime that we're going to call this grand total, we need to pass on the selected product. Okay, now here we want to delete item from cart. In case user goes to the cart and wants to remove an item from the cart, how is he going to do it? We have created this service or this method or function to enable the user delete item from the cart. The user needs to provide an item ID, and in that, since we are having my cart which contains a process cart, We also have any selected product which contains a product or the cart definition. We need to make sure we remove it from both. After that, we need to remove the old one from the cookie and now set the new one. After that, we want to show this toast or this message, product being deleted. Okay. Now, what if in case the user goes to that page, my cart, and the user is satisfied with all the products added to cart and now wants to check out? How is it going to be? How is it going to do it? Let's see. The next function here is going to help us achieve that. So when you look at this method, it's a checkout method, and I believe you've read, so you know. And here we want to get the user because here before user can click on checkout, the user must therefore be authenticated. So we want to check if the user is authenticated, then well, we want to proceed by showing payment dialog. This dialog will enable the user to select the payment method. For now, we have only one payment method, that is by card, credit card. So in case you have multiple payment method, this dialog box will pop up and the user can now select the type that he or she wants. All right, so now in case it couldn't, then you want to navigate to the authentication/login. That's a login component for the user to log in. But in here, we are implementing a manual return URL. Since it's coming from the cart, you want to pass in the cart name so that in the authentication or the login, we can receive this and keep it in a safe place. After you are done logging in, we can go and redirect it back to the same page, so that when the user is in the checkout page or the cart page and needs to log in, after logging in, the user doesn't need to click to my cart again. It will automatically be redirected to cart. That's good, isn't it? In case you have an issue too, then kindly do the same. Okay. Now with this, the next thing we're going to do here is in case a user selects the payment method. Let's assume user is now authenticated. Now the pop-up has shown and the user has selected a payment method. How are we going to handle that? Let's see the next method. All right, so when you look at this, when a payment, this method is being called, we want to check in case payment is null, then we do the right thing, we return. If not, you want to say that this payment we're saying processing, can you wait? We want to populate this checkout model. We pass in the payment method ID, which is already selected from here. We have the cart already at hand. Then in there, we're going to call a service. We're going to return success or response, service response, which contains a boolean and now a message. Now this message, in case it is success, it tends to be the payment link. We want to navigate to that link. But in case it isn't, then it becomes a message and you want to show the message and now return. When this button is clicked, cancel, we want to hide this. So this method is going to be called in the UI. Okay, when the button is clicked, that is where this is going to happen. Good. So now that we are done building our C# functions, let's go and write our UI to call or integrate this in there. So I can close this. Now let's first add our toast component, which is coming from Netcode-Hub. Toast. So that is our beautiful small toast. Now here we create a reference which corresponds with the instance that we injected here. You want to set the position, it could be top, it could be down. You want to have it bottom here. You want to have an icon class. I'm using font awesome. I don't know whether we have this check as a font awesome, so maybe it might not work, but it might also work. So you can refer a correct icon class here. Then persistent, we want to set this to true so we can have a layer of this toast in case we perform multiple functions. Then we have duration, that is 4000 milliseconds, the time that you wait before it gets hidden. We want to make it at 4 seconds for each toast. Good. Now let's create a small CSS. The reason why I'm adding this here is it's only specific to this component. So you know to add it in the general one, like an app.css or creating an extra layer of CSS class attached to this is very small. So I decided to put it down here. So this is going to be the CSS class for our model, which is going to display the pop-up for payment selection. So in the UI tool, this is what we are doing. Let me just minimize them so you can see them well. You see, we are creating a div container which has a open and closing. We have a row for bootstrap things. In that, you want to make sure that the selected product here, we have at least one or more. In case we do, then we want to loop through that. So you can see from here, we are creating a div. Now, if you look at this, we are creating a div of column LJ12, which is the whole row. Then in that, we want to create a div. Now in that, we have a BG as warning for just a simple design. We have a card. So that is a card. Then in the card, we have this card header. This card header contains my card. Then in the card header, we have card body as well. So you can see from here, we have card header, we have card body. Now in the card body, that's where we have the stuffs. So check it. Now we have a Netcode-Hub data grid. Now it's a table with a bootstrap CSS. So you can see I'm having this table light, giving the background as light. Now within that component, it has header template and a content template. The header template is where you're going to specify your table rows. That is the header. So you can see we have table row and I have TA table header. You have it image, I have name, price, quantity, total, and I have manage. So that's so user can decide to either delete the cut and it will come from here. This is going to contain the product image, the product name, the price, quantity, and the total price. Now when you go to the header content template, that's where we are looping through this selected product, which is a list, and I'm displaying this item here, which should synchronize with the header that we have provided earlier on. So if I open that with the content template, you see we are using for each loop. Now we're looping through for each. Now after looping through it, you want to create a local variable to handle this. Now in that we have a table row. Now in the row, we having a TDs as specified here. Now the number of TDs should also sync with the number of TDs that you specify as a header. We having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we must also have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that each picks one respectively. So here we're specifying the image, the name, the price. And then the next one here is we are talking about if we check this, the input text box. So there's an input. The type here should be number, and that's the user can update it. We want to have the width as 25 as a bootstrap. It's a form control from bootstrap. Then we want to get the value. So you want to set the value to it. So when you run the application and you go to my cart, the default quantity is supposed to be 1, and it should be displayed in there. So we have created this method already. You are aware. Get product quantity. So you pass in this product ID that we have stored locally here, and we're going to get the quantity in this value. Now when the user clicks and decides to change it, this method will be called, and then here we are passing these two arguments here. That is the change event ask, and also the product ID, so we can update it. So we also provide an ID, which is an HTML attribute. We provided by the product ID, which is the GUID. Good. Now that's going to be the next one. The last one here is going to have the total price. So get total price, we pass in the item with the product ID to get the total price. Now the last one here, that's where we have this should sync with this manage. We have only one icon here, that is for delete cart item. So it's an font awesome trash. So that's a trash bin. Delete item. We have created this method already, and it takes in an item ID, and we do that. We're going to remove and also get save, get it reloaded, so we can have a current one or real time data as well. Great. Now here you can see we're having this grand total. Now this is happening. The content template is happening within the table. Now after or outside the table, where we have this column, the table card body, we go into the card footer, which is all found within the card. We want to get the total. So you can see we have there's a grand total. Now grand total, you pass in this selected product. This is a list. Bear in mind that I mentioned this earlier on. So I think this should be get grand total. So it means we need to update that. Quickly, let's go and do that. Get grand total, that is this. We update it. We go back again, and that issue should be solved now. And we have a button as. And also we are having this button, as you can see from this, as what? Checkout. So if I click on this checkout, that's why we're calling this method. And now a form will be opening. User going to select the payment method type. First of all, it should be checked whether it's authenticated or not. In case it isn't, then it's going to perform what we have stated in there. Okay, so that's a simple thing that we are doing in our UI. Then in case there's none, you want to display cart is empty. In case selected product does not have any member, then display this as cart as empty. So that's what we are doing to handle our cart component. So after we are done with this, now we are on the method, or we are on the page whereby the user can click on add to cart. You can see that in our application, we are having the latest component, which is displaying in the UI, the home page. After that, we are having the category beside, and that's where the user clicks on category, it navigates to main page. And that's where we get the category by ID and then get our respective product. So within these two components, we need to make sure that we implement the same logic in there. You can create one service to handle the same, but well, I want to implement async disposable according to the component. Although you can also do that in the service, but I want to do it based on each component. So I have created that, or we need to create that according to the components. Okay, but well, if you have a service too, that's amazing. That's fine. So you can also do that. There's also another way. So let's see how we're going to work with that. Now we go to the Solution Explorer. Now in our component here, you can see we're having this latest product. Let's implement this async disposable. And as you can see, we have this method that we have. I want to move it here because that is the method we're going to get called when the page is dying off. So I want to be the last one. So in here, what are we going to do? We want to add item to the cart. But when the user clicks on add item to cart, what should happen? We need to make sure we implement that. So let's go to the cart component, or maybe the same latest product. And here, you can see from our UI that we created, we are having add to cart. This one, this add to cart. So we're going to build this again. We're going to add on click event, so and handle that event as well. So let's do that. I believe you've gotten the idea what we're doing, isn't it? So you can see from here, when the button is clicked, we pass in the ID. We want to make sure that we get it from the cart. In case it is there, we don't want to duplicate it because you can add product once and then you can go in and update the quantity. So in case you've added it already, then kindly do this. But in case you haven't, then add it. So when you add this to cart, then here we're going to save it. Now, why are we saving it here? You know, when the page is disposing, that's why we want to call this cookie service. We don't want to be calling cookie service as soon as user adds item to cart, because when user tries to add item, about 5 items to cart simultaneously, click, 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 we have to be calling this service the same thing as well. We don't want to do that. You want to create a container like when you go to mall, you pick a basket, and now when you pick a basket, if you're about to leave the mall, that's where you make payment, isn't it? You send the basket to the counter, whatever, and now you pay. We do the same thing here. We create a basket for the user. When the user is done and now wants to navigate to another component, that is where you want to save this item to the cookie. That is the best way. Yeah, so that is the approach that we are using here to minimize the frequency of recalling this service. Okay, you want it to relax for a while. You don't want to be troubling this interface. Okay. Now, what we've done here, we need to also do same. Now we need to, this is what we need to do. When we check our service that we created for our UI, this is a div, but we are associating on click to it. So it means let's grab this bar button, go to the app, www.css, go to app.css, and in here let's add this. That is a class. So let's specify cursor as pointer, so that any div which has this, we're gonna have a button click display. Okay, now we can go in and grab same. So what we have here, let's grab this. Now let's go to, so after our latest product, we need to check our main page. That is where it's going to navigate to categories. We have the same thing. So let's make sure we have replace this. Then you see, so the reason why I said you can create as a service is to reduce the duplication. Now we need to also go and do and copy the same thing in there. But since we're having it in 2 pages, that's the reason why I did not create service for, because if you're repeating it twice, it's fine. But in case you're having more than 2, that is where you need to create a service for. Well, you can also do yours in case you want to make a second duplication, then create a service. It's up to you to do what you want to do. So here, let's also copy the same thing, and then we're going to implement it the same way, the same thing, the same approach. Now we need to get a list, so let's have it. Then when the page, when we are disposing of, let's do same. Now the good thing about this is when you look at this, this page can last in for about, because all the categories are going to come here. So let's say if the user navigates category 1, maybe electronics category, and I'll add some product in there. Now the user goes to the another one, let's say clothes category, and I add one. The user will also arrive the same place, just that the parameters will keep changing. Since the page is still in existence, we still have this list alive. If so, then we need not to save it all the time. We can wait after user adds everything when navigating backward or going to my cart. That is where we do that magic. Let's copy and paste what we have in our tools component, which is very essential here. Then we need to create a reference. Let's do same. So if you are wondering how come we got this, we did this in the previous video. So if you haven't checked that one out, I think you can check it before you can get into this. Okay. Now we have this, so it's also solved, and that's good. We are almost done. Good. What's the next thing that we need to do? Now, do you remember that we introduced manual return URL to our login, but we haven't handled that, or have we done it? I'm not sure. Have you done it? Okay, so if you haven't, then I also haven't done it. So let's do it together. let's define the same page. I need not to write this again because I have it here. Why should I write or type? Okay, and here we need to specify a route. Now this route is going to be the cookie name. So let's have parameter here, which is string, and now we're saying this is route. Now let's go and modify after successful login here. So instead of this, let's use standard operator to check. If route is null, then it means user is fresh user, is now logging in. But in case it isn't, it means the user has now visited the minecart already, and now minecart is throwing back that user to this page. So let's do that. So we have route is equal to null question mark. If yes, then we know what you're doing. Go to this page. But in case it isn't, then navigate to the route. So using the operator is quite simple. We have skipped if else. Okay, so now let's go and create our last component for the day, and that's going to be when the payment is made successful. What are you going to do? Which page you want to show? Let's go and do that. From our pages, we have a cancelled component already. So let's have success payment component. In here, you want to display something to the user. So let's have our route specified. All right, so when you look at this, you can see here we want to get the authentication state. We want to check whether user authenticated, so we can get the user claims such as the name and the ID and all the properties that we set from our token. Aside from that, you want to check. So if you want to execute this only when the user is authenticated, you want to get a cookie or the card from the cookie service. You want to deserialize it into a list. Then you want to create an archive here as a list. Then you want to pass on to this service. Remember that we created this service, cat service, which takes in a list or an enumerable of this create archive. And after that, you want to remove the cat from the cookie because user has made payment off. So everything is set. So maybe the next thing you can do here is after payment is made, if you want to get, because you know that here, after payment is made, you need to deliver the item. And I believe you can handle that for the delivery service. You can create it and implement it the way that you want to handle that. And also in case there's an error occurred, even after payment is made, error occurred in trying to save item to the history. You know, we have the cat item already in a string, so maybe you can keep this somewhere else and pass it on to the another table so that later on you can visualize it and do it. I think these are some options or some exceptions that you can handle it laterly. All right, so this is what we need to do. Now, this is for a success payment. So in case this payment is get called from a Stripe service, then quickly this will get rendered nicely. Great. So now that everything is set and done, we're going to build this project. Then we run this to check our client and also our API as well. So for new check from this, I think cancel that does not exist. We not call this. Let's click on the error list, click on this. Yeah, we have this canceled. And it tells you that we did not implement this cancel, but I think we did down here. Let's see, that is this cancel, that is void. Okay. So this cancel should. Okay, so see where it is. They should be moved out of this. Great. So this is going to get executed when the user clicks on cancel and decide not to click on checkout. Okay, so that's what I think. Building this once again, everything should be solved now and it should work now. Let's wait and check it out. So you can see that it is succeeded. So I'm going to run this and also run the API. So let's run both projects so we can test it out. So our app is running, but we are not having the latest product. Let's see, when you go to our API, I think we need to add one property to the product DTO. So that is a get product DTO. When you go to the domain and check the product, we need to add, I think, date created. So we have our product here. We need to add a property here as date created. And I think from there, we can go and add it to our DTO. So let's have this property. It tells you that when we are done, we need to add migration again. So created date, we can set this to datetime.now. Then the same property that we have created, we go to our get in the application layer from our product, get product, then let's add the date here so it can be mapped. Now let's stop this and let's add migration again. So add migration, updates product. Let's make sure we have the infrastructure set as startup. Let's go and update this. And that is done. So our product that we're going to create is going to have a default date of today's date. So let's go and run this again and check it out. All right, so now when you refresh the page, now you can see we are having this latest product here. And we have this carousel so we can move in and out. And as you can see, it has a new tag. Great. Now let's see if I click on add to cart, this item supposed to be added to cart. But let's see, I click on this, nothing happens. Let's click on category. Let's say I want to get only for electronics. We have this item. Click on this, nothing is happening. Let's right click on this, go to inspect element. Let's go and check the cookie, see if it's there. Yes, you can see we have it over here. So my cart, we have my cart. Then as soon as I click on this cart, oh, we did not link that. We did not link it. So if I go for my cart, then this should open. And they should load the cart service from the cookie and now get them displayed. Oh, okay. So now we have this. We've added 2 products. As you can see, we had the product 2 and product 3. These are the prices, total amount, and then this is the grand total. We have checkout button. Now, as soon as I click on this, you see this also updates in real time. The same thing applies to this. Check it out. You see it's updating. I can also reduce the size and it works. Same. Yes. So the minimum is 1 and the maximum is based on the number of product that we have. Although we did not configure that, but we can actually check it to see if the quantity that the person wants to buy is bigger than the product quantity, then we can display something. Okay, so we have this. Now I want us to look at why our toast is not working, because if I click on clothes and I have this product, in case I click on add to cart, the toast must show, but it is not showing. It is not showing. So let's find out and see. So you can see when you come here to check, when we add products, we are not showing the toast. We only show toast when you try to add the product twice. So instead of this, we can show toast like this. So we need to open a bracket. Then let's move this here. So after it has been added, we want to say that. So this is, do we have success? Good. So you don't have product added to cart. Now the same thing applies to when you go to our latest component. We're also doing same here. So this solves the issue. And also when you go to the API, you know, from our constant class that we created, when you check your client library and now your services and helpers. So we have these as services. Let's locate our constant file. You can see that from here, getting to the payment, we made it as payment and our method. Payment and method, right? So we need to make sure the route is the same in the API controller. So you have to make sure the controller name is payment and on the method name or the endpoint is method. You have to make sure it is the same. So I have opened the API, and as you can see from here, our payment and this payment and method. So the route is going to be payment/payment-method, which is not good. So let's remove this. So we have payment/method, which is going to suit what we have now. Great. Now let's run this. And also let's rerun our client again. So let's go and try it again and see whether our toast is going to work. Yes, you can see we have it. Product added to cart. This also added. Now click on this and I have product already added to cart. Okay. Now let's click on this. Let's go to clothes. We have this. Now if I click on this, I have the same thing. So this is also working. Let's click on cart. Okay, so we forgot to link the cart. Let's navigate here to my cart. And now let's check it out. So initially when it loads, we have cart is empty. And here we are having only 2 products here, but we added more than that, isn't it? So let's clear this again. Now let's go and add it. So for the home page, you want to add it, you want to add, we've added 3, want to add 4. Let's navigate. We have 4 products added to cart. Let's go and verify. So I learned we are not getting the cart item because we did not navigate, we passed through here, right? So we need to click on this. So it means we need to, let's link this first. Let's go back to our source. And we can link it from our, I think our home banner. Maybe this our header. And we have our, let's see. Let's see if we can get access to the cart. So that is this cart. And it is navigating to my cart. Okay. So again, we're going to try this to my cart. Added 2, 3, and now 4. Now let's click on this to my cart, and now we have it. You see that? So if I can decide to increase this and also increase the quantity, have the total amount. If I click on this, you will see I'm not logged in, so I need to log in. Let's say I log in after that. Email not found. It means I need to create an account. Let's go and create an account through the API. That's an API. So create account. Now you can see the account is successfully created. So now let's go and log in again. And now we are logged in. So you can see it is navigating us back to my cart. You see that? Now we are in here and then we have this. So if I click on checkout, you can see I have my admin added. I have this select payments method, which is credit card. So as soon as I click on this, it is now please wait. And as you can see, so here I have no such host is known. That's an error message that I get because I did not provide my key. So let me go offline, provide this key. I think we've learned, I've shown you where to get this key and how to work with it when working with an API. So I'll just go offline, paste it, and I'll come back. All right, so now that we have this, we're going to click on checkout. Now let's log in. And now we are in here. So I'm going to click on checkout again. Then I'm going to select this cart. So as you can see, please wait, you're processing. So after it gets connected to the Stripe account, it has to redirect me to Stripe. So got it. Now let's wait for this to pop up. Then you can see we're going to see the list of our product that we selected and also the cost and now the total amount. So there's the total amount here. It is a 182.52. We selected product 1, product 2, product 3, and 4. These are the prices as you can see from here. Now let's say I want to fill this. If you want to fill this, the default one that we can use here is 4242424242. So give it any dummy CVC. And now click on testing. So you can see there's a card holder name. This is my country, and I click on process. So after, let's say this card is correct, everything's working, even the production level after the dashing has been made and payment is done successfully, it's going to redirect you the successful link that we provided when configuring in an API. Let's wait for that. So you can see now it is done. Now check here. So payment success, right? And now here we have payment made successfully. Thank you for shopping with us. So as we get here, a copy of this has been sent to our the cart here has been sent to a database. And after that, if I click on my cart again, cart is empty because it has removed it. Let's go to database and now verify if it is actually there or not. So that is it. Let's go to SQL Server Object Explorer. And in our tables, we're going to look up for archive. That is this one, check out archives. So let's view this table and see what we have in there. So when we check our, let's say from our app, we should get But I could see from here our checkout archives payment is made, but it's still empty. Maybe let's trace it to the service that we created from the cart service. This where it should work. So maybe from create archive, which should be a list. And here, oh, okay, so I believe you saw this. So this should be this create archive. Now let's run this. And we're not going to the Stripe account to make that payment. Now we want to navigate straight to this and assuming that we've made the payment. And now let's put a breakpoint and see what will happen next. So let's try to add a couple of products to carts. Okay. Now let's navigate to the page as payment success. So payment success. And let's wait and see whether this is going to work. Okay, so a breakpoint is now hit. Okay, so you authenticated and that's fine. We get a cart. Okay, there's an issue here. Okay, cart is null. Continue on. Let's go to cart itself. Okay, it's empty. Let's go home. Add, and then add. Let's go to carts. We have it. Now let's go to payment success. So this shouldn't be the correct route. We are passing backdoor. So you check and see. Now you authenticated. Let's see, is the cart saved? Let's check it out and see. Oh yeah, we have it here. So we now deserialize into a list. Record a service and I remove it. Okay. Now let's check from our table and see. And I can see that we have it. So this is the user ID. That is a quantity. This is a product ID. And that is a cart ID here. The ID that has been stored for. So we have the user ID. You bought this product ID. This is a quantity. And now the date. We have the date here. Okay, so we've seen how to work with this, how to start with the cart service, the component, and now we're able to make payment and also get the history. We are done with our client section. Now in the next video, we're going to look at how we can create a simple edit form so we can add product, we can add category and such. Okay, so let's see in the next video. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, then make sure you do so, and also like this video in case you've learned something in here. Until then, take care and I'll see you again.